Welcome to another meeting of the Newbury Recreation Committee. Call the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's get going. Mike Volpone.
Mariah Lacy. Celine Muldown.
Mark Sand.
David Brohl is en route. We'll add him if he makes the meeting. Reading the previous minutes. Mark, thank you very much for getting this out. Did anybody have any questions or edits for the list?
Just that I don't know if we'll get to the calendars today.
That was last meeting, the last meeting we had.
Oh, sorry. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just coming over what was the last.
Any motion to accept the minutes as written?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Any correspondence? You got nothing? You get anything?
Bills, is that correspondence?
That's the next section. So no correspondence. Bills and claims?
Yeah, we have one bill from G Mello, which is for October, which is about right. And then I have this random Rally Ready Mix. And I think what it is I went back to September's, I think this is a delivery sheet that ended up in our mailbox.
Yeah.
I went back a few bills, and there was a bill that we paid to Rally Ready Mix.
So it's
So
just,
I tried calling them, but so I'm pretty sure that this is already paid.
okay, so you'll confirm
So
that.
I'll just double check that.
Anything else?
That's it, just the one bill.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Are we gonna suspend Gemello soon? Don't we put them on hold for the winter?
Usually at the end of November.
Okay. So I should expect one more bill?
And David Brohl is joining the meeting. Please tell me you meant D-E-E-R, not D-E-A-R.
How do you come up here?
Yeah,
Serious
Sorry.
games with me, I tell you.
alright. First order of the old business, basketball court at Central Street, the capital planning proposal. I provided that last meeting. Did anybody have any feedback, comments, or do you have any more news regarding the numbers, which would be great news?
I got all sorts of stuff, I just have to give you 1 second to.
Do you have any update while he's organizing?
Just that Johnson had emailed me back and asked if it would be a spring project or a summer project.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's something we're trying to get done in the spring if we can pull it off. Granted, I don't know how that's gonna happen.
Well, looking at the calendar, my understanding is if it gets approved by capital planning and finance, it would go on to the end of April, May annual meeting, and if you have the town appropriate the funds at that time, then we'd have to go out to bid. So I would say early June at the earliest, and anytime after that.
That's summer.
So there's your answer. Thank you,
Okay.
Mark, very much for some reason I wanted to say it was earlier in April, but you're probably right.
Okay, I'll email her back on her note.
Okay. So we had, at the last meeting, discussed, I'm gonna try and cheat here quick, I'll give David a little bit more time to make sure you're ready. I appreciate the information on hard work he did. I had proposed in the numbers based on discussion with Celine that the excavation of the area, 20,000, asphalt 15,000, the 6 basketball hoops at 1,500 apiece for 9, fencing, which Celine got from 3 different bids. The best was 2,600, which is a 4-foot high black vinyl fencing that would go the length of the court and then 4 feet back, so, or 2 feet back, so it was 104 feet total. Subtotal was 46,600, an overrun percentage of 10%, 4,600, so for a total of 51,260 was the idea. David, after that, then took it and said, we talked to some people and found out that our numbers are low, so we need to get an idea what realistically we're sitting at.
So what I've come up with is that everyone seems to do a concrete face. That sort of seems to be the right thing. I called, contacted Sport Court of Massachusetts. I think they're out of Andover. Yeah, they're out of Andover. And he said that they don't do concrete, I mean, they don't do pavement, but they do a concrete slab, which is like we talked about it before. They
Yeah.
put down a concrete slab.
That's why we're trying to get Johnson's involved on
Yeah.
that point.
And then they use these plastic grits. So his price to do that.
Those are the ones you can take on and off?
No, the grids go down, and what they do is they allow water to go underneath,
Yeah.
and it's also it's a high quality surface. Their price was between he said between 81 and 84, not including any additional fill or fencing you'd want. So that's the lowest that would come up with. And then I went back to the group out of Andover, not Andover. They were they're local, maybe Amesbury. He said for asphalt that he could do between 60 and 75K. He said for prevailing wage, again, he said add between $20,000 and $25,000. So he said whatever your price is, he said add another $30,000 for a prevailing wage, and then he said another $8,000. So his price is right there at 80 plus 8, so he's close to $90,000 for his price. Of course, he gave me another one here. It says 42 for asphalt court, 25 to $3,000, meaning 25 to 3,500 for hoops, and then striping was 2,000. So that's a lot less. So I got two different ideas here. Total around 60 to 75K with prevailing wage. Oh, without prevailing wage. Prevailing wage was around $20,000. So we're talking $80,000 to $85,000 for asphalt. And then this other guy's around $90,000
For the rubberized.
for the rubberized stuff, the concrete plus rubber. And then we've probably got I don't know if it would be 20 grand to do that. I went out there the other day and I measured the 100 by 60 area. So over 100 feet, it drops off and rises by maybe an inch. So the lengthwise, but when you go towards the parking lot, one section goes down about 3 feet, and then the other section goes down 2 feet. So there's gonna have to be a certain amount of film, and maybe it was one of those things that we can, we wanna leave that number around 20K, and then see if we can get someone to donate the film. Who knows what the town may have for projects, but to have that fill drop down, and then we can put, maybe we should be looking for $100,000 on this, and then, maybe go to concrete and go the good, I don't know how you guys feel about that. If we wanna do the other way.
So does the concrete include the baskets and all that, or just, it's the whole thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so both of these.
Outside
things
except
are-
for the fence.
I don't know.
outside the fence.
And the fence, we were talking here is
Fence was nominal.
like $3 grand.
So the other thought is we go asphalt on this and just sort of do the low end stuff, because we could probably maybe get people to donate stuff, and that will reduce the cost down. And then
Can we do that with the town? Doesn't things have to go out to bid?
Yes.
Unless it's a donation.
yeah, if it's under 10,000, is it under 10,000? Is that the rule?
The whole thing?
Well,
There are two different
bid-
issues. One is the procurement of services, which is, if you're under, I believe, let's call it $10,000. If you got out through quality bids, it's one thing, and then if it's over like 50,000, you have to get, has to be publicized and all that, which this would be. The other question is the the use of volunteer labor and or supplies, which there might be some rules on that we'd have to further investigate. Because I know that one local company donated the rocks for the retaining wall for the field house. That was the supply. I don't peer group like we did with the playground. So I don't know the regs on that.
Because in theory, we could go through that method, you know, put it in the town's hands. You have to, if we get the pavement donated, have the town level it. And then all it is us procuring $3,000 worth of hoops, or $4,000 worth of hoops, or whatever it would take. And we'd have to paint ourselves. I mean, I don't know. You know, the question is, do we just do?
What's the durability between the two of them, sorry?
The concrete lasts a lot longer.
But it's nowhere near as forgiving. It's like, I mean, you're talking people falling on the thing, it's gonna get cut up more. It's like playing on the street.
Yeah, if you use an asphalt, but if you do this, I think this mesh stuff is what all the basketball courts are using now, because you don't get wet, water goes underneath it.
But it also allows you, gives you a better feel for the game, and if you're gonna try to track tournaments and try to do things, it would be probably a better thing to, the question, what's the number gonna be? If it's nominal and we can work it out, then yeah, I'd recommend the mesh court, because it does play a lot better. I played on both. But again, it comes out of money.
Tournaments, what type of tournament?
Well, the whole idea when we first started talking about this is, and I would jump on and find a way to get people involved, whether it's create a league and get people out there and try to see if we can generate additional revenue to the town based on a men's league or a girls' women's league or something like that, and then possibly try to get a, like lacrosse is done with their tournaments and stuff, try to host a 3-on-3 tournament. I was over in Georgetown and they raised a truckload of money a couple years ago for a charity, and they had 2 or 3 courts, and that's it.
But how are we gonna do that with one court?
They did theirs in one day. We can do it in a weekend. You schedule weekends over and hope the weather holds, and then you have rain dates set up.
Yeah,
That's down the line, but that's my idea.
I think if we build it, they will come. I mean, I know. I mean, really, it's true.
Thank you, Kevin Costner.
I mean, if you think about it, there's nothing around. I mean, the elementary school has a hoop now, right? Which wasn't there before. There was
2 hoops that has the buses travel over it every day.
Yeah.
And it's like playing. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what's harder, the court or the rims.
But there used to be one near the yellow schoolhouse, but that went.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything else in town.
So did they give you that in writing, the 90,000?
No, they're just, both of them are straight up. One guy said, I can get back to you as far as a solid bid mid-November, and the other guy was the same way. And one company has not even responded back to me.
At that rate, it doesn't make any written now, because we still have to put it out.
To bid.
What about
Yes.
Triton? Does
No, but we
Triton-
have to prove something to.
Indoors.
Say we-
They
Not
don't
open,
have
nothing
that.
outdoors.
We don't have
That's
that.
again, that's the problem,
Yeah.
because Triton Youth Basketball has been looking for courts. Our kids have been involved for years, so they've been trying to find courts, and there's nothing outdoors. So doing summer league or something like that is impossible. I know I played years ago, granted this was a long time ago, Hamilton Wenham has tournaments all the time. They have courts outside, and they're always busy. That's the type of idea, so if we could try to possibly attract Cal teams to that would make a big difference, that would help. You know, it may not bring in a lot of revenue regardless, but if we're getting the kids in there, they see the exposure they're getting out, I think it could be a big deal. We can see how it goes. Thank you, Dan.
Well, I think it's probably more prudent to do the better quality, as much as I don't want to raise the price. I mean, what's the difference, 10,000? Roughly?
So,
Oh, there was a 40,000, 50,000.
no, originally when I talked to this guy Ted at 360 Sports Systems, he was saying, I think we talked about it before, it was like in the 140 category to do the concrete with.
That's when I started laughing.
Yeah. And so this other group, I think that, I mean, he's very nice, he said he would go before whatever boards, but we still have to have it out to bid, and they'll choose whoever the best bid is. So,
Comparing apples to apples.
yeah, I mean, you
Best
know,
value for the dollar.
yeah,
That's,
Comparing apples to apples, not
You can't,
asphalt to
somebody-
concrete to.
They will take that all in
you
consideration.
can't compare the 2 different surfaces is apples and apples, because they really are
Yeah.
that different.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But if someone comes back, and it's depending on how you look at it, if someone comes back and says, I give you the mesh court for 90 grand, and I can do the asphalt court, I'm throwing numbers up, so I apologize.
Yeah.
Minus all this stuff, just numbers, and they come back and say, I can do the asphalt for 80. I would think the 90 grand would make more sense, even though, yes, it is $10,000 more, but you get that much different. But if it came at 80 and like 140, no, it's not worth it. I think anything more than 25, 30 isn't worth it.
And we also could probably get grants
Well,
for
that was
this.
my next question, does
Yeah.
anybody have an experience with that, writing grants and finding grants?
Tracy said that she helps out with it.
Yeah.
Because she said that, I don't even remember, but,
She did send something out.
it was probably 8 months ago, maybe 10 months ago, I brought in pictures. There's a court in Salem that's right on the water, and what they did, which is really, really cool, they used that type of mesh base, and they put a rink around it. So in the wintertime, they fill it up with water, and they skate on it.
Because they both caught up.
Yeah, well, they had it down, the court was still down.
Oh, really?
So they just poured water right over the top of it, and they used it as a skating rink. And they, so, I think she gave me a price, and I thought it was like in the 8, but that, she said that they got that, because she contacted people from Salem, they got that through a community, whatever the fund is,
Community preservation.
yeah,
Which,
CPS.
I believe our town does.
But,
They don't
and then I actually have a note
Qualify, or
here
they don't
to
do
talk about,
community
to
preservation?
Tracy about possible
We do.
donations and also sponsorships, because businesses can say, yeah, I'll give you this if I can put my sign up there. Will the town allow that? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think the basic line is we come up with a price, if it's, let's say we ask for 130, I'm not saying we are, but let's say we ask for 130, and it gets approved, then, or even if it's 100, if we feel, what we feel comfortable asking, then the town will allow us to use $100,000, but if, opposite the field house, if we get donations and things, what we can do is we can just get it to the point where that $100,000 that the town gave us only cost us $60,000 because we got donations and everybody's happy. I don't know.
So at this point, when you're talking about the mesh fields and whatnot, that means Johnson is no longer, that's
It's,
not.
There could be the base piece that we need there.
Okay, so I
Is that
should
it?
still pursue,
to
It's
get
something
the
like
numbers, what the step we would need to take is with writing up a proposal for the capital planning committee to review. And the more information you give them, the better it is to show that we've done our due
Yep.
diligence. So that we've looked at the different surfaces, the plus and minuses of them, the cost for each one, the durability, the intended longevity. If the asphalt is good for 15 years versus 20 years, that helps justify the more expensive court. And we have to lay it out and let them, because many of them are fiscal CEOs, CFOs, more experience with these numbers than I guess most historically than what we do for a living. And they would make the decision of what they think is in the best interest for the town. They will then forward it to the finance committee, who will then make a decision about whether it should be put on the warrant or not, and then vote on it. So our job is to do due diligence.
The concrete one has a 15-year warranty, where you said that asphalt is less stable than concrete. That's what we sell, so.
Where was this place in Salem? Do you remember?
I think it's Sport Court of Mass. No, this was in Andover. The Salem guy has not got back to me.
The court-
John Campbell.
No, I'm just curious, the court you were talking
Oh,
about.
Salem, I'm sorry.
Is that Forest Park?
It is, no, it's, if you guys are familiar with Bridge Street heading towards downtown, you take any of the lefts near the old Salem Break, and it's in that little harbor area that is, past the gas tanks, where Collins Cove. It's Collins Cove Playground. I'll show
I'm
you.
doing it right now,
Yeah, I might have a,
because if I have it, I'm just curious real quick, what it looks like.
I think I had a picture.
You sent a picture to us a while back, and something like that would help with
Yep.
helping them visualize what the course looks like. And
Yeah, Tracy had, I think Tracy got me prices for it. Just a while ago.
So we were gonna start formulating the proposal?
Yeah, so really what we need to do is, I've got the proposal still on my laptop here, and certainly we can do either way, but we already
Well,
said
there's
the other.
paperwork to fill out, right?
Yeah.
That's, everything needs to be put on that, the other stuff is.
So we need a one-page document that we can hand them with all the information as well, and then go
Try
from
to
there.
sell it.
And try and sell it. And again, the numbers are gonna change, so we gotta get an idea, it's almost like grab the mean on what we're talking about, and go from there and see if we can go. So current excavation of the year, we had $20,000, how ridiculous is that number then? Or
I'm sorry though, the concrete, does that include excavation?
No, he said it does not include any excavation.
So they come in and they want a level surface, ready to go.
Well, I think within, I would bet that they probably have, I don't know what the word is, not backhoes, but, tractors of some sort that level it, but I think that we have to have a level base, or somewhat level base.
Yeah.
You know, they go into people's backyards and no one's backyard is perfect. Did you find that picture?
I haven't been able to find it yet.
Found a picture of a kid riding a bicycle on it. Yeah, it's with the ice rink around it.
Yeah.
You have it?
Kind of. It's on their Facebook page.
I'm going to Salem in a little over a week, so I'm gonna swing by and take a look. Thank you. Just so I can get an idea of kind of what it looks like, but. All right, so the question is, how do we want to proceed at this point? We gotta put something together for the committee, for capital planning, so we can say, this is what we're looking at.
And when does capital planning meet?
November.
November.
It's rolling on, it may have
How
2 or
long
3
do you think it
meetings.
would take to excavate that and level it? If somebody had a bobcat?
Depends on how much you feel you need, it would be done in a day.
Yeah.
It's
I
not.
mean, I'm looking
Yeah,
here, I
might be
don't
able to get
see,
somebody to do it.
I don't see capital, at least not scheduled yet. I'm looking at the November calendar right now. And I have this planning board, finance committee, for selectmen, planning commission, cultural council, planning board again, conservative. Yeah, there's not a capital planning committee meeting in November, according to the current schedule.
Okay, so we have some time to put it
It's not my luck that watch me next week. I can go back. I'm going
They'll
home.
meet a couple of times, because there's always gonna be proposals from, say, DPW, fire, police, et cetera.
I just don't know if I'm calling it the right thing, because they're saying planning boards.
Was it the Fieldhouse this time? You were doing it in October, weren't you?
Yeah, oh, I remember we lived together practically all last year, trying to put this together.
So, yeah, I think
We
we
have
should just move it along though, trying to knock it
I
out.
would say we need a document that we can provide to them.
Is
and
that
then-
online, the document? Yeah. I'll look it up.
I just looked at December real quick as well, just to make sure, and there's nothing listed for there as well. I'm just gonna check October, make sure I didn't miss it, watch me next week. But, so, we need a form to fill out, we have a document we need to do with them. And,
So if we can, tomorrow find this form, are they open tomorrow?
No,
Yeah.
but I'll look at,
It's online.
Okay. I can turn it, or one of us can turn it into a live document and we can collaborate online.
We need an education. You know what the problem is, my husband's Google Docs is open on
Mhm.
home, and so everything goes right into his account.
Oh, yeah.
We have multiple accounts.
there is nothing, they have nothing listed as a scheduled meeting unless it's called sometimes, from here until the end of the year, so we have to figure out how to work it out.
Okay.
And Mark, you said, if I go to the capital planning committee, program forms and program committee recorded meetings. I just don't know what the form's called, so I'm sure.
Let me just pull it up, and I believe that's it, yeah. Form B, I have a project request.
Sorry, my laptop's not a little slow.
So it's not an extensive, it's similar to the form.
What was it, Form B?
Form B, yeah.
Yeah, that would be great, if you want to make a live document.
Okay.
And then we'll jump in there, we'll add our pieces in.
And I'll make a point to try and get my group of dogs working.
Then I would say, just for the back of our minds, that the November 5th meeting is probably gonna be imperative, if we're gonna try to get this done before then, so I think that would be back in your minds if you get the date. Because I look at mine right now. I'm open. All right, so, thank you, Mariah, for pulling that together, then that'll be the main piece for the next meeting, so we have that down, so.
I'll try and find the fencing emails that I got at Close.
I'm gonna reach out to Tracy as well and find out what we were allowed with regard to donations and sponsorships. If a company wanted to, like Johnson wanted to donate, and all they asked for is to put their sign on
Well, I
something.
might have somebody who might be willing to do that excavation work, as long as.
Yeah,
stuff
he-
is
Yeah,
there.
typically with signage, particularly on public property like that, there's a process that needs to go through, and it's highly discouraged, because then people who donate, you stick their sign up. How big is the sign, where does it get located, who gets priority?
I'll still ask, what you can tell me is
Yeah.
that's all it is.
Yeah, what she basically said to me when I discussed that whole thing is, she said that what you have to do is you have to come up with a number. And then,
Tracy,
yeah, and then, you know, you go in front of the town says okay, and then you can, so let's say it's like I said, $100,000, but you have people that are willing to, you know, we have 10,000 or 9,900 or whatever dollars.
yeah.
All those numbers sort of take off that, and they're happy because of that. So I think that the first thing to do is to, you know, come up with a solid number, because I think what she was saying is basically we have all these ideas of someone may donate this, or someone may donate
Yeah.
that,
But until we know, we need to know what the number's gonna cost.
and they may not.
Yeah.
But if we get, let's say, you know, it's $130,000, and we say, okay, we've had 5 bids, this is what we wanna do, this is longevity, this is the type of court we want, this is what we want for money. We go in front of the town, they give us $130,000, but we cut all that down by donations and,
Fundraising, all that type of.
yeah, you know, we can,
But-
basketball hoop's gonna be donated by somebody, and like you said.
It sounds like the thing we gotta be careful, but with a bid though, you're talking, the court's on one bid, the excavation's on another bid. It's like we're doing multiple bids for every single piece, and it's like, alright, so we need an excavation piece done, here's 3 bids for that. Then we need all the asphalt, the court stuff, the foundation layer, that's another 3 bids. Then we're talking with the different courts, depending on what we're looking at, there's another 3 bids. And then we're looking at the asphalt, the hoops on top of that, granted they should be under 10 grand. Or we can use the Triton Youth Basketball money, if they allow us, as a gift to pay for
Yeah,
that.
and they will, and so the other part about that is too, is we maybe, so let's say we have an outside group do it, and they say, okay, it's gonna cost $100,000 to do everything. And then we go in front of, you know, whatever banks, whatever kind of thing, and say, hey, will you donate X amount of dollars to buy, you know, so they're essentially buying the hoops, even though that money is going back, and, you know, we're
Mhm.
paying X group to build it, but, you know,
When the check comes out of here, they're writing it, we've given them the money,
money,
for the
so,
donation,
yeah,
or
so.
a gift. type of thing.
And
It's
the
just-
town will be happy in that aspect, that I think that anything we do out there, is gonna be, it's just gonna be a plus, you know, for the town.
I mean, we talked about it, it helps lacrosse, it helps soccer, it gives them other kids to place to play when they're out there doing it. And that was the thing, because as soon as this one's done, guess the next thing's on the list is your playground.
Yeah.
You've been talking about that for 3 years, so I haven't forgotten about it. All right, so the next meeting, thank you, Mariah, for pulling that together. If you can get anything from these guys regarding the breakdown, I'll reach out to Tracy, you can pull your information we have from before, and we'll go from there. Next, fee schedule format, format of the fee charge. Do we wanna go there, or do we wanna do the cost recovery that's sitting up on the thing right now, which is,
I would suggest doing the cost recovery
So I'm
first.
confused what the cost recovery is. What is that?
Cost recovery policy is when when an organization like us collects money, there's a policy behind why and how they do. And when you're through it, it just kind of lays out what we're doing. We're not a private business, we're not a non-profit, we are a municipality. So we want to set up our own guidelines, just like we have a mission statement, just like we have a charge, this is what we do.
Did you send this to us?
Yes.
Do you have any ballpark idea when? Because I'm gonna pull up my email right now, so I.
I just feel like we have a lot of different, we have a mission and then we have, it just feels.
But that's unfortunately, if you look at the town charters and whatnot, there's a lot of, here's what we do. And in the nonprofit world particularly, it's similar in that way.
Do all towns have this or just a few?
Some do, some of it's embedded in the overall fiscal management policies of the town. I don't know if we've adopted some of the recommendations that were put forth in the document that was created for the town.
This one?
Another constraint.
I'm looking for it right now in my emails. If you got a date, I got every email we've done, so.
I believe I sent it again when.
This might have been right around the time we started.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure it's the right
You
one.
asked for me to send it twice.
I don't think I got it the second time.
I have the fieldhouse policy, opening up community fields.
Yeah, we didn't make it.
Let's see, minutes.
It's basically boilerplate.
Yeah, I mean, we're making progress, we're gonna do one thing or another, we'll keep working on these things to get it done.
The,
So is this the same thing?
on that grass.
That was something different. They were, at one point they were,
So it's just this
it
page?
should be a two-page
Right.
two-page
Well,
document.
this.
So it used to be, they park their cars sort of like on the one page.
And then it was two,
Now, they're driving their cars all the way up so they can see the soccer field and sit in the car while they watch the game.
Oh, tonight, did you drive by
No,
tonight?
this is all the time.
Yeah.
I go by and without fail, and I was gonna actually put some stake downs, but I don't know if I have the authority to just rope off that area and say, don't park here, but they're,
We've been saying it since the beginning of last
that's up
season.
on here, and I think I have some information on
Okay.
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Cause it's unbelievable.
Okay. So it's a one-page document that we can, and then Mike, 3 meetings ago, we started going through some of it.
How long ago was this?
This should be like every year.
It's a town recreation cost recovery plan fee proposal, so this is kinda like the same thing.
Yeah, just this, from this page and this part.
So all it is this
And
into
then-
that.
Yep, that's it.
Let me see if I can find it. While I'm doing that, not to cite it, because we'll come right back to it, we're gonna do the fee schedule now, as we do that, we're gonna do something, but it's in the format, how we're gonna handle it. Oh, I wish I remembered you did that, Mark, I wanna say it was early September.
When did you start?
May, July.
And Mark, you set this out, or is it,
Yeah.
is it a group one?
I made a working document to
Yeah.
initiate it.
It was like 2 or 3 together, and I keep losing, I'm not losing the email, but I keep, because it's,
Well, my threads get all,
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
and I'm
want-
just trying to find out where, you started in July, you said, Mark?
August,
August?
or July, I'm sorry.
Would you have been on the email chain too, at that point?
I would think so.
She was on the email chain?
it's gonna be after the 10th of
Oh,
October. 'Cause you had
after the
sent
10th of
some-
October?
Yeah, you had sent an email saying, could somebody send the 2 documents we were to review tonight?
I don't.
I have an agenda items right here.
I feel like we should have a separate email address.
Well, yeah, something.
It's on my stuff.
These are the 2 documents, I think I may have found it.
I got nothing.
You sent me something too, didn't you?
Aha, found it. Sorry, I apologize.
Where did
So-
you find it? Ron, what date?
It was on the 10th,
10/10?
10/10. The email, just for everybody's information, it is agenda items. It was done on, actually, it didn't start off, the original email was on the 2nd, and then on the 10th, I had sent it out to, I think it went to everybody. No, actually, just sent that one to Celine, because I thought we'd all gotten it done.
See, no one loves me.
I I didn't say it to her either, so I feel terrible, all right?
Oh, maybe I do this. That's screw over.
All right, but I have the document, so,
Do we have it up on the?
no, but we can put it up there. Or do you want me, Ryan, can you take, if I email this to you?
Yeah,
That'd be
I
better?
just found it.
Give me 1 second, I'll just send it over.
We try and upload it.
Send it, if you can, send it to Triton, send it to my.lucy
That they
at
tried.
tritonschools.org and whatever.
Policy and procedure manual, that's not good.
No? So it's MORIAH dot Lucy at TRSD
Yes. No, tritonschools.org.
schools. Oh, I do have that one. I'm not gonna put anything with it, it'll just be the, just make sure the documents are in it. Yes, all right. It says recreation cost recovery, so when it comes through, it'll be from me, from my email address, macv21@gmail. And we can pull that up and let's work through this one, because it looks like we had most of it done, and then we can look at the other document, which is the use of the facility guidelines from Mantor Field, as well as the policy procedure, which is the one we worked on last time, and hopefully that last time.
How'd you guys work out with the Georgetown thing? Is that still in the process?
Not even, we haven't even had another meeting yet, I'm just letting people know. And that's just very preliminary,
Okay.
it was starting to look at it.
It come through?
If I have something come up, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, no, that's just from my,
Let me do my version of what Mark does with his glasses, because I'm gonna take mine on and off, I look down at my screen, I can't see up there. I look the other way, I can't look the other way.
I don't know why I lost.
You turn off, power saver?
you should see the, what was going on with the town meeting. Do you guys remember the town meeting?
I wasn't able to, I was babysitting duty yesterday, my granddaughter.
Oh, this is
So we have an extra $6 million, or, no,
No, we don't, I swear, I think it didn't pass.
yeah, I think that.
It was a majority vote, but it didn't pass with
Yeah.
2/3.
And it was just a nasty meeting, people were not happy, it was just, it was a lot of.
Okay, so this is the document that you
Yes.
Yes.
shared. Okay. Did you want to, its purpose is to,
Provide us with guidelines for us as well as the general public of what we do with our cost recovery, because that's essentially what we're doing. Because we're not a private enterprise, or even we're not a private enterprise. When we collect money, it's to do something with it, and in this case, it's to recover the costs of our appropriation that we get annually.
Of the $50,000 is what you're talking about.
Right.
I just wanna make sure I'm clear, it could be
Yes,
something else, and
that's
I'd
our
rather ask the question.
appropriation.
But the appropriation can change,
Yes.
higher or lower.
And yes, it can. And typically, with something like this, it's based on, because we have a revolving fund,
Oh, we'll bring it up.
it's based on how much money,
He said he's got.
how much it costs to take care of the property. We're not supposed to be, the intent of our services is not to charge so much so that we're bringing in more than it costs to run the program.
Who said that?
It's a general acceptance of fee schedules for towns. Towns are not supposed to be charging for trash, for example. They can't be charging $100,000 to pick up your trash, because it's part of the taxes that you pay. That's why we pay taxes. So the purpose
Is
behind.
this something that the town had talked to you and said they wanted just to be done?
We should be doing it, yes.
Okay,
The
well,
town- I didn't get the specific words from Tracy.
alright, well then, I'm kinda curious in why we're doing this. One is, I mean, we certainly wanna do things, and I understand that, but if the town is not asking us to do this, and there's not a problem right now, then why are we spending time doing it? Until they say, yes, they'd like to have it done.
Because it sets out parameters for us to operate from.
Well,
The town didn't ask us to change the fee structure, but we're doing it because we feel it's a better model, and this explains why we do these things.
cost recovery is policy is set to offset costs based on annual appropriation and not maintenance and operating costs. Explain that.
We get, if we already get $60,000.
We got 50, we already know that.
Okay, all right, we'll use 60.
30.
Right now, yeah, actually, it should be about 30,
Yeah.
because that's what it costs to maintain the property. That's both taking care of the field and our estimates for the field house. In terms of budgeting, when you budget at a municipal level, particularly with a revolving fund, because we're one of the few entities that collects fees,
Okay.
okay? What we're trying to say is, and this is what I've asked for with a spending plan.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what our costs are, here's how we're bringing in revenue to offset those costs. We don't get those monies, it goes back into the town general fund. But we're trying to make sure, like a nonprofit, that what we are spending is we're bringing in that amount. If we end up getting more money for that, that's okay. And as long as we're, I'm gonna use the word within reason. But we're not charging, if our costs were nothing to charge the fields, we shouldn't be charging people money to use the fields, because it's not costing us anything. It does cost us money. It costs us, my guesstimate with the mowing, the irrigation, and our estimates for the field house, close to about $30,000 a year.
And we're just, as of right now, we're just talking about the field house. We're not talking about anything else that gets added on later on to the date. Right now, that's the only thing we have is the field house and the fields. But if we added the basketball court, we added a playground, we added something, A, B, C, or D, that number's gonna have to be increased because we've gotta find a way to make sure we have the money. So this right now is only basing on that one item.
This is for the property located at 81 Central Street.
So do we need to then have a document for one if we had one on, was it One Ave, One Circle, or whatever? One down behind the baseball field that we were talking about, we would need another one for that too?
We would be able to revise this to include that property.
Can we say, instead of saying specifically located at 81 Central, why don't we choose the town of Newbury? And I'm asking, I don't understand, I'm trying to avoid us having to constantly make up new documents to do this every time.
Well, I'm not asking, it would be asking us to make new documents. Right now, the only jurisdiction that we have is the property at 81 Central.
Well, I wanna take out, I'd like to take out the address,
Okay,
just because it will prevent us and another
So-
group later on having to worry about it, so just take
Okay.
the address out.
Fee proposal period,
fee proposed for the recreation committee.
the recreation committee's cost.
And fee proposal, got it.
This is actualized, the town buying and improving property, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because we're not gonna buy property, right?
We can't buy property, the town can, but.
But we're saying that sentence, the second sentence down says one way this is actualized is the town buying and
Taking that one,
improving
just
the
putting
property.
it in the Newbury Recreation Committee.
Hold on a second, let me.
I forgot to hear that. I actually got this to work the other day.
How about taking out buying and improving property okay.
Well, that'll get to
Well,
work, yeah.
The purpose behind that sentence was to give an example.
What's
20 years ago, the town felt
Yep.
this was important, so they did this.
Yep.
And that's why it's one way this is actualized, this is what happened. We bought the property, we developed it, the fields first, and now the field house, and then the basketball courts.
I apologize to the public that's watching this, we're in the middle of trying to get our IT working so we can do this.
Okay, now I'm gonna
Now you're in edit form.
yep.
So just get rid of from, and even further up, for the.
And then kind of do the same thing with that, where it says one, this is actualized, that section comes out.
Okay.
fee level and method of collection of which is considered factors of historic precedent. Do we need it, or says, I mean, granted, legal's gonna look over this and say if they need it or not. Desire to subsidize non-profit, desire to subsidize non-profit trade use sports and regulate demand.
What do you mean by regulate demand?
Well, many times, organizations, towns, like David mentioned last week, Govs, and when we looked at those prices, a lot of times they put up an artificially high price so that nobody uses it. So that they can say, we offer it, nobody uses it, it regulates demand. People won't want to use it. Because I've used some of those fields for no cost.
Consider the factors of historic precedent. That sentence, that whole thing sounds like it's boxes in the corner. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, can we just put a question mark there and go back to see how it relates to everything else?
Yes.
The idea is basically say, here's what we're doing, here's the guideline.
Principles that guide the recreation fee schedule. The cost recovery policy is offset costs based on annual appropriation and not maintenance and operating expenses.
Which legal may have a problem with, but we can throw it in there, and if we have to reduce it, that's fine too, but.
Why is it in there? Because it, I mean,
Because I would like us to, have a higher amount, which is gonna be the appropriation. If we can say to the town, our goal is to collect the same amount that you are spending, or you're allocating to us.
so you want us to collect $50,000, and right now, we're getting $50,000 a year. We
Close
wanna make
to it.
sure we're bringing in, it's close to $50,000 from the various entities that use the facilities of the town.
If
But
you-
does it put a cap on you, not that I'm trying to make money off the fields, but I
No.
wanna make sure that in the reverse,
Well, as time goes on, okay, there's two things. One, the reason we're at the number of $50,000 is if you go back historically, that's close to the amount of what it costs to maintain the fields.
That's what it used to cost?
Yeah.
Wow, we're doing pretty well, we got it down to under 30 grand.
And
And we're back to the field.
that was one of the reasons why our town administrator said, and working with the DPW, saying, can we do it
For less.
for less? And he said, yeah, and I could hire this person, they could do it twice a week, they could do it, and there's a lot of pluses to it.
Okay, so my question there, and that's great, because that gives us some decent. So we've lowered our expenses
Yes,
from 50 to 30.
yes.
So my question then is, are we then able to then take that money and apply it to, move it to the field, stuff at the library, all this stuff, because now we can use this money to help sponsor events and stuff.
It's always been there, and again, that was the purpose behind.
I just wanna make sure we're not losing that, because I don't want all of a sudden get us in a situation where we
We
can't do that.
don't lose it if we come up with a spending plan and have come up with a spending plan that makes sense for the citizens of Newbury. It's with the revolving fund, because it's a separate account, the goal is not for at the end of the year to spend it or don't get it next year. The idea is, what are your costs so you can plan ahead? What are your annual operating costs? What are your projections for revenue? What are your projections for expenditures? They should come in out close to equal. So again, with having a spending plan, which I've proposed, here's some of the things we could be doing. And
When
the
you're
idea-
saying offset cost, are you meaning reimburse the town for annual appropriation?
I'm reluctant to use the word reimbursed.
I'm not sure what you mean by offset costs.
To offset a cost is we're spending $20,000 to take care of the fields. We're gonna generate that revenue, which goes back into the town.
But you're saying, but that it's not for maintenance and operating.
Right, because the idea is we get an appropriation.
Right, but when you say offset cost, I'm thinking cost for maintaining and operating the fields. So I'm confused by
Okay,
offsetting
The
costs.
sentence reads, is to offset costs based on annual appropriation.
Yes.
Okay, so if you just take out that bottom sentence.
Oh, okay.
I'm not asking you to, I wanna make it clear that what we're doing, I'm using, I ask that, don't take it out, please.
I'm just putting a strike through, because I can always remove the strike through.
Right, if I just left that, it may get confusing to people. And that's why I put the not part into it, to say, this is not what it means. What I'm proposing is that we offset the cost on our appropriation. If we get $70,000, that our cost recovery is to try to get to $70,000 and not on to basic maintenance.
All right, so you're taking that last line then.
Okay? I was just trying to bring clarity to it.
All right, so increase accountability between services and fees charged.
What are the services?
What is the accountability?
We know what the fees charged piece is.
Accountability. The idea is to maintain high-quality fields that we have. I think people in the audience would recognize them. They're pretty good fields, that they're going to keep coming back to them because we maintain them. Now, if we were to offer programming with some of those funds, it would be, how are we bringing in enough revenue that way?
So services being field maintenance as well as,
And anything that we do, that we're not charging $100 an hour and mowing it twice a season. That there's a relationship between what we're spending the money on and the quality of services that we're providing.
So we were charging $100 an hour. I think the town would be quite happy with us for bringing in that.
As long as we, and this is not, so we're not going anywhere near that, but if we did charge that and we had full fields, I think they'd be over the moon, because what we could then do is take that money and build the swing set, the playground, create a lot more events, have a stage put down at the field, so if we wanted to do theater and stuff down there, and increase that, have a summertime playground thing, but.
Again, we're a municipality, we get an appropriation, so no matter how much we charge, we only use what's your.
But it justifies to go back when we ask for that
So-
money.
So are we bringing this in front of Tracy or the?
This will go in front of Tracy, the legal, and then before the board.
So they know this is coming. They're expecting something like this?
We gotta vote on it first.
So that answer is no. They don't know what's coming.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've done, they didn't know about it, but we did it, they review it,
Which is fine.
because it's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I just want to make sure there was a reason for this form and what was the purpose behind it, because to create another
right,
document,
I
when we
feel
have
like people here are here because we keep telling them, you know, we're gonna decide the fees.
we're never gonna decide the fee, we're gonna put a number down, and the
Right.
town is, the
Right,
selectmen are
of
the ones
course,
gonna do
but I
this.
feel like that's what we keep pushing off to the next meeting.
That's the next thing on the list,
Okay,
we're trying to get through this one first.
okay.
Balance the desire to free and open space with sufficient funds to operate and maintain the fields. We can't just give the fields, leave them open, not generate any money. Well, we could, but then our appropriation would be diminished to just.
I think that sentence contradicts the first sentence that you had on the top, though, the way it's written now. I'm not,
Can we have that?
sometimes the way,
There's a balance. So we can't just give it away for free, but we can't charge so much that nobody uses it. And the idea is we need to generate a sufficient amount.
That's why I'm dedicated.
I can't see.
Oh,
Should that be, are we still in the third one?
Balance the desire to free and open space with sufficient funds. Because isn't that sort of the premise of what at that time, Chairman Walker asked us to do?
Well, the
At the
question,
town meeting, to say, well, I forgot which resident said, why do you always have to charge for the fields? Which was the catalyst for this whole question. Chairman Walker had said, can you guys look into that? And this is trying to say, yeah, we're looking into it, we're going to fee per hour so that there can be more open space.
I think
That's what that says.
I don't think there's a municipality that doesn't charge for fields. From Boston to the smallest community. I think
What?
everyone charges for fields. I mean, it's just.
For people to They charge for fields for people to have non-exclusive use of the field.
I'm just thinking that we're also, eventually we're gonna, I don't know,
I don't want to take out, because where we took out the not maintenance and operating costs, balance the desire to provide free and open space, period. Take the rest of that out. Because we were going to be consistent, we already took the maintenance and operating costs from the top line.
Yep.
Thoughts? I'm just throwing things out there.
To free and open space. Well, there's no balance.
Or instead of balance, make,
With
determine
something
or
else.
provide or.
The balance is free and open to
But it's not
sufficient
balanced,
funds.
I don't know.
To funds.
To free and open space with sufficient funds. That kind of
For
contradicts
free
itself.
and open space.
Yeah, balance the desire to free and open space.
For free.
Okay.
If you wanna say open space, but to say,
There are for free and open space with
How about
sufficient.
just open space?
Yeah,
Well, it's free because.
well, with that, he's right, that's what Chairman Walker said, he wanted to have areas that were free, that were available for the residents of the town.
With, balance the desire for open space with,
Can we say need?
Yeah, I like that, balance the need.
For,
I use free so that people know that, again,
okay, for
what the whole
free,
premise.
it's free open space. It's not
Yes.
free and open, it would be free open space.
Yeah,
With sufficient funds to operate and maintain.
no, I think it should be with our tenants.
Yeah,
It's not with
But-
funds, it's with, you wanna balance the need for open space with the needs that the tenants need. That's what we're balancing.
well, so I would differ because I think some of it is, it's not so much the tenants, it's we need to bring in a certain amount of revenue.
Through tenancy.
so if you just do funds.
No, we don't, yes, but the tenants don't need to pay we could say the tenants don't need to pay anything.
Right, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm
But
just
but
saying
then what's the point of, we wouldn't be able to operate the fields.
What I'm trying to, what this document is trying, this part is trying to demonstrate is we have free space that costs nothing for people, and we're gonna have to balance it with generating. We don't wanna book all the space up and make money and not have time for people to use it for free.
Right,
And that's what this is trying to do, that's why it's the
but I don't
funds.
think that's what's saying that. I'm sorry, I'm
yeah,
not,
that's
it's
not,
not
yeah,
what
that's
you're,
not,
it's how
that's
you're
not saying what you're trying to say.
It's,
Okay,
that's just my,
free and open space.
Balance the
with-
need for free open space and talking about
Right.
tenants somewhere in there. That's what my guess would be, but.
or with our,
Paid users?
Yeah.
well, they're not all paid users, with our,
Approved users,
Did they legalize marijuana?
because that could classify both pieces.
Massachusetts?
Permitted? Permitted?
Thank you.
Permitted, is
Permitted.
that the
Permanent,
word?
because that could be, we could be donating, because it's local and it falls into that piece, we can do
because
that.
that's what they get, the application, they get a permit,
Permit, yeah.
so we
Thank
have.
you, Mariah, that
But
was the
we
right
got
word.
is,
No,
I agree with the word, I just get confused that people don't understand that, because we have a language, it's called permitted. The general populace may not understand what permitted users.
They can go to the field.
But they won't. If a general person looks at permitted user, what do you mean permitted? Am I,
As outlined in the
Yes.
town of Newbury,
Okay, yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
yes, that's it.
We voted it down. Or we didn't vote it down, we didn't get the majority.
That is outlined,
As
Just thought
outlined
about
in what is a
all the time
document
those people
called?
spend.
that is the,
Town of Newbury, Massachusetts.
Rancho use of facility guidelines.
Yeah.
What about
We can get the exact
Permit
name.
holders,
In this town, people
Huh?
aren't spending.
permit holders.
Take the rest of that line out,
Someone's driving down.
funds to operate, all the way down to playing fields, take that whole line out.
Obligation for
And now we're gonna try to create the wording,
It's
to be,
Okay.
as outlined,
cement life.
Yeah.
in the Town of Newbury, comma, Mass, MA. And then we just gotta find, make sure it's the right term, what it is.
Can we call it the policy?
Oh, yeah, okay, that's the other one. It's the policy and procedure, in the Town of Newbury Policy and Procedure Manual. That's it.
Should we shouldn't be shooting the video towards that, should we? As far as the open meeting thing, the screen, it's not needed.
Do we have a problem with that? I mean, we certainly can.
We can't do both.
We can't put both.
Well, we don't have the ability to, well,
Okay.
I don't think that's on, so.
I think a lot of times when there's open meetings, you know, people have
Stuff and you can't see.
stuff and you can't see.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome, just wanna make sure.
So we apologize to anybody in advance for, this is all available on, this will be all available on, once it's approved by the Board of Selectmen. All right, so how far down, we're at line 4?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Provide youth sport programs with adequate field time to ensure meaningful experience. I'm not crazy about the language. The idea is not to give, I'll try to use lacrosse out. You have 10 hours for all your programs for the week.
Can we just say youth?
Yeah. Or programs, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever.
Do a theater, or we do something else, we have to make sure it's compliant.
Agreed. But it's laying it out. Because a little bit down the road, if we're not here, somebody else might say, yeah, I can have 40 groups in here and.
But they have precedence in the outline anyway.
Mhm.
In our procedure, they're like higher up in our
Then some
tier
groups, yes.
Yeah.
But
than most.
the idea is we're recognizing the fact that we don't want groups to get a less than.
I just feel that's vague, it's not.
I'd almost use the same thing as we did before. I'd almost combine the 3 and the 4. It's almost like we can duplicate it to a point, or we can reference back to the policy manual, unless I'm missing something yet, which wouldn't be out of the norm.
Well, I think the 4 and 5 are kind of the same. So citizens of Newbury and their guests, high quality playing fields and field house,
Yeah, you could easily combine those two then.
and adequate field time,
Okay.
right? 'Cause
Yeah,
high quality.
yeah, let's merge those.
Okay,
Are we here at 7:30?
Yes. 7:30.
and then
No one else is here, but I got.
every 3 years, the rec committee will establish a council comprised of 2 committee members, a rep from each of the seasonal users, and up to 2 members of the general public who will review the current policies and fee schedules to determine if recommendations should be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen are
Yeah.
necessary.
No,
It should be, every year there should be a review of it,
A review of what?
of our fee schedule. The idea of making it every 3 years is a little bit more comprehensive, by bringing in outside people. You know,
Okay.
particularly the users, and asking them, is this too high? Is
but
this,
we always ask them.
this makes it more formal, because we don't have to.
Can we
do it
just
out of
say-
courtesy.
I'm not gonna erase it. Will,
And it provides a check, if you will, on the system to say that we're opening up this conversation to others, and it's not a closed-knit group. So every year, the rec committee will review the current policies.
I think we should word that differently, that we will allow members to make recommendations, but,
to make,
I mean, this, first of all, this screams of when is this gonna happen, and, you know, is that a meeting that's not on open space, on TV? I mean,
No. Every year,
Well,
all the
first
departments.
of all, it can't be every year, because it takes us 6 months to come to any agreement on anything,
Okay.
so that would just,
plus then we have to then wait for them by the time we get done, so.
All right, two different issues here. One issue is, most departments need to review their policies and practices every year and report back to the administration. It's common practice. So that's 1 year.
We're developing right now, we'll be reviewing, that's all, so it wouldn't be quite as bad. But, because this is all brand new stuff, I mean, they haven't had this, so we're developing everything from scratch. So hopefully it wouldn't be that bad, so,
It's not as cumbersome as we think. We may look at it and say, this is working, or at first, it's not, let's change the numbers. The idea behind the every 3 years is to make it a little bit more formal, so it's not just people sitting, the appointed people of, by the Board of Selectmen making this decision, that we formally invite our users and maybe people in the community to say, person from finance, how does this look? It's being transparent.
Well, I'm all about being transparent.
We
I'm
love
just-
transparency.
yes.
You see right through that.
Oh, I do, I love transparency.
Because I don't want anybody questioning
So
what we're
every
doing,
year-
because we're all volunteers trying to help out the town.
And it'll be, in my experience, it's a very short look of our prices, looking how the fields are being used. Is this working? And it shouldn't be that difficult based on the numbers we have.
So
And
you
then
wanna do it every year, and the line says every 3 years.
No,
Well, originally, when you made the recommendation,
We said 3 years, but I mean, if we're gonna update, the reason I was saying 3 years regarding the fees, because that's what Jason had
we
originally
want
said.
to look at plan.
He wanted to have a fixed price for that time. And I don't want, and again, the whole thing goes back to the point is, all we're trying to do is, we need to be more in control of the pricing. But we don't want it to raise to a point that they can't afford to be here. We want them part of this. So it's a question of the control piece that, because we're the ones responsible for it, we have to be doing it. That's why I said, and then Jason had come up and said, how long do you want to do this? 3, 5, 7 years. So they can plan accordingly, which I think makes sense.
Well, again, I don't know if we can be giving someone a 3-year rate, say, okay, we guarantee it for 3 years, because what happens if next year, you know, the cost of cutting grass goes up $1 million, or whatever it is? I mean, how can we lock in a figure for, that 3 years is a long time.
I know, I do it all the time, I've been
Yeah.
doing with 5-year contracts
Yeah.
with my clients.
So, I don't know.
That didn't go well.
we're conflating
But-
two issues. The issue at hand is,
To review
how
the policy.
often do we want to review this policy, our
Any
policy?
policy, I believe, can be amended at any time.
But-
So if there's a group and a complaint has come in from Triton Lacrosse about field usage, dates, cost, then it's presented, it goes on the agenda, and then if the group agrees, then it becomes an amendment to the policy,
Okay.
yes?
So as needed.
Yes.
Well,
As needed.
most people,
Every
yeah,
2
that can
years.
happen. However, better business practices, better municipal practices that you review every year. It doesn't, I mean, I remember when Mitt Romney came in to be governor, he asked all the departments, you need to justify your budget, this should be happening every time. We went back and looked at every budget and had to justify every expense. And that's all they're asking, that's all we're
And then, but
asked to do.
you're seeing one where the 3's up there, what would you say, every 2 years? So it's not stale, it's there, you can go through it, it's a compromise in the middle. Or we can use every 3 years, or every 2 years, or as needed.
The idea of leaving it or as needed does not require us to take action. The idea behind having this deadline is with most municipal or most departments,
All right, well then,
say, we're gonna do this every year and here's our documentation.
all right, so every 2 years, or at a minimum, every 2 years. So we're saying the longest it can be is 2 years. But as Mariah was saying, if we find a situation
at a
that,
maximum.
or as Dave was saying,
Maximum.
or, you're right, I'm sorry, I went the
Okay.
wrong way.
I just wanted to make sure I was.
No, you're right, I went the wrong way, I apologize.
I mean, this might be up to Eileen as the accountant, what does she want from us? What is the standard for
Legally,
other
they come back and say, we
departments?
want to do it this way, and it is, I'm like, all right, well, then we'll
Yeah.
do it accordingly. But we're giving them, it's like, Mark created a document for us to start working off of. Then we're gonna take that document and we're gonna hand it to Tracy and to legal and say, here, this is our, what's missing, we have problems, these questions, they gotta come back to us and we'll figure it out. But we're still taking it through, so whatever we do here tonight,
It almost seems like this might be the mission statement that goes at the start of the proposed fee permit,
If
blah,
you
blah, blah.
scroll up, you'll see that's where we're gonna insert, but right now, if we can get this approved, again, we're showing the progress and we can work on, scroll down.
He meant the other way, so if you look at, it
Right
rolls
there,
into it.
right there, insert model here, we'll format once complete, but the idea is, this is a document that people can read.
Okay,
Is everybody okay with the document as it sits right now with all the corrections?
No.
Okay, since we're not going to vote, so Celine, where are your,
But we still need to fix paragraph 2, and I'm still,
okay,
we wanna know who is in charge of reviewing this. I agree that we should have outside input, but, I mean, the way this is saying right now is that they have almost kind of a vote, which
who does?
Well, go
the
back
2
up
committee
to,
members and the representative.
No, we took that line out.
Is it,
At a maximum, every 2 years, the Recreation Committee will review the current policy schedule, that's it.
that's what we're leaving?
Yes.
Alright,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yep.
So we still have to fit,
Ooh, I like that.
So what else?
to make recommended changes if necessary. And then, so the paragraph 2, where we weren't in agreement with what was going on there.
bullet 2 or paragraph 2?
Paragraph 2.
Okay.
and you take out, okay.
Yeah, just try to clean it as much as we can. Determine the fee level and method of collection, the Recreation Committee considered the factors, yeah,
Take out outline below, oh yeah, it is outline below, okay. Can we get comma instead of parentheses?
yes, take out the outline below, because we've already got it, it'll be in there, he was just referencing that, I
Okay.
think, correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Consider the factors of historic precedent, and desire to subsidize it still doesn't.
What is the method of collection?
Check.
Right,
Right now, it's check.
okay.
We might say.
Sorry guys, we're trying to find other ways to do this, make it easier.
But I'm not sure how the what's written below has anything to do with the method of collection.
Neither.
Okay, to determine the fee level, yes?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Determine the fee level, the Recreation Committee will consider the factors, or?
Consider the factors of.
Considered, because it's past 10.
Yeah.
Consider the following,
Well, because we're gonna be ongoing, it's not past tense, it's gonna be
It's
for
gonna be
future,
revolving.
here's how we're gonna do this.
Semicolon, historic precedent, comma, is that right?
what is a
And we're not gonna jump it up $100 overnight.
So we're gonna look at what the current status is, and then we're gonna make the adjustments accordingly.
I feel like there's a lot of generalities that can.
But you can't get too specific, because then you get pigeoned, as Frank was saying, you get pigeoned into something.
If you're not specific enough, you can.
To determine the fee level, the Recreation Committee consider the following factors of historic precedent.
I would just leave it there. Determine the fee level, the Recreation considered the following factors.
What are the factors?
the bullets?
Yeah,
Then I wouldn't say to determine, I'd say the principles that guide us. Take out that whole paragraph.
Yeah.
No, keep the principles. Principles that guide Recreation Committee fee schedule.
But that's to determine the fee schedule, the rec committee
He's saying
considered
get
the
rid of-
following factors.
He's saying
Get
get
rid
rid of number, paragraph 2 altogether and
Okay.
keep what you had,
Okay,
or the other way.
oh, sorry.
so I'm confused. Undo.
So now, just highlight paragraph 2.
Take that section out, and then leave the principles that guide.
Gotcha.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense to you,
very nice.
Mariah? Is that
Yeah.
okay with you?
Does anybody else have any questions at this point? Any problems with the issues? Celine, you okay?
Yep.
David?
Perfect.
Mariah?
vote on this and?
I'm just about to say, that, I just wanna make sure. Do I get a motion to accept the proposed,
Cost recovery fees.
thank you, I couldn't see the beginning of it.
Mike makes a motion to accept the cost recovery policy and fee proposal. Let's change the name, because there's not a fee proposal in there, because that could be a separate document.
Or can we just leave it, because it will be, because we're gonna start the fee schedule once we approve that. I like the idea of a one document, it makes it easy in that regard, because we'll
Okay.
go back, look at the one thing.
So,
I wouldn't keep putting it into one big document.
no?
No, I think this is a separate document with fees.
I actually like the idea.
Why?
Because it's easier to reference, it's not embedded into something else.
Reference to the table of contents.
The fees are gonna be on the application like they are now,
Yeah.
right?
So if I just, we can
I mean,
always,
we can put it there, we can leave it
it
from
can
there
always
on.
come
I
right
think-
back out.
I think he was saying, taking that document, put into the working one that Mariah had, instead of putting the fees into that down there. Is that the question, am I getting the right question here?
It's sort of like our mission statement, there it is. Our charge, it's on the website. Will be on, this is who we are, this is how we operate. This is our charge, our mission statement, our
you're
cost
saying
recovery
this is-
policy. Then we have the documents of the field itself, the field house, and applications.
And where are you putting the fees with the field house and the application?
The field, wherever we wanna put them. They could be a separate document.
I don't think they belong here.
Well, that was the point, we were gonna put it down there, but she's already pulled that out, so.
I can always,
I know, we can.
very
I like what
easy.
you're doing, Mariah, because it's one place. Everybody can reference everything in one area. They don't have to go to 6 different forms and try to make sure it's the right one. Like, I was trying to find this form earlier.
Well, again, on the website, we currently have on our page, the mission statement, the charge,
Yeah.
members.
But we're trying to put it all in
And then-
one document, so everybody can look right through it and catch everything.
And then on the left-hand side, well, if you don't know where to look, it's gonna be hard to find. So on the left-hand side, we have archived videos, then we have, what else do we have? Oh, this is the capital. You have this whole part here, which is, we could just have that as a separate document. Then we have the policy for the field house, then we have the policy for the field, then we have the application, and then the fee schedule. So people don't have to pull out a 30-page document and try to remember where it is.
The application's the only thing that I would break out. And the fee schedule beyond that, so we have it as well. But we still have to get this approved, but at least we got the document. So the motion on the floor right now that needs to be seconded is to accept the proposed language that was agreed with, that was worked on tonight. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
You can't, you made the
No,
motion.
Mark makes a motion to accept the written, revised cost.
Do I hear a
recovery
second?
plan.
I second.
All right. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none. All those in favor of accepting the proposed language that we've just worked on for the Town of Newbury Recreation Committee's cost recovery and fee proposal document, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. Fee schedule.
Okay, so I am new to this, I pulled this all together. Please don't even think twice about pulling it apart, telling me what's wrong with it and what to change.
We just want to say thank you for all your work with this. It makes it easy. I agree with Mark to a point where if you're looking on the website, it's easier when you're not looking for all the forms and digging through it. But with one document, it certainly makes it easier. Because then you can pull it, you can reference one area, you don't have to go to all the different tabs. Because I was just trying to, you were talking about a capital B form and I couldn't find it on the website
Right,
for the town. Unless I searched on capital B form, because they all called it different things.
so there are a couple things that I wasn't sure about. So reservation application process, Regular use of manager playing fields, 1 through 5A and 5B, by groups shall require a permit. So my question with that is, if we leave this line in here, then that would mean that groups intermittently using the fields, the areas outside the field, would not require a permit. Are we okay with that?
Which document do you want, can I ask?
Oh, it's the one that
One that says the working document?
yes, exactly.
Okay,
So the first part of it is the part that we went over last week.
Wait a second, I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Is this the document we approved last week?
The document
the
that
other
we
part
approved
was-
last week is above it.
All right, so, because that has already been forwarded to the town. for
Yes.
Yeah,
approval.
she just
Yeah.
condensed it in one thing, that's all.
Yep.
Okay, it becomes
So
confusing.
this is
when it's just-
Roman numeral number 2.
All right, then.
This is a printed copy, so you can see what it looks like.
Again, then this is part of the other document?
It is on, it's
Condensing the two
connected.
documents together.
It can be disconnected very easily. It's
Okay.
only a working document.
All we're trying to do right now is just go through the text so we can find it.
So we're looking at the town of Newbury Mantor Field use of facilities guideline?
No, one that she sent out that says,
Yes.
yes, Manor use of facility guidelines, so this is a working document only.
Facilities as opposed to playing field.
This is both, so we need to change that name at the top. What you
Didn't
did is you took the policy and procedures, right?
Is this what we had before that we're now revising?
I have not changed anything to what we did last week.
I understand.
On that part, we're talking,
Yeah.
Okay, it's,
the old one?
okay, because I thought we had policies for the fields in place. Or am I confused?
We don't have an application for the for what we did last time we met, this is what we did, right here.
Right, no, he's talking about the policy and procedure thing that we have online for the doc.
So this, okay. So we have this, are you revising a document that we already have?
I don't know.
Last week, when we sat here, we talked about coming up with a fee schedule, application process with dates that things needed to be in by. And so that's what I said that I would come up with.
So I think I see what's
Share
going on
out.
here. So you wanna send part A,
Or you already sent part A?
we
So
already
part is-
sent that off,
yes.
okay?
Yeah,
And what all we're doing now is we're basically, this is when we make our big change, that's what this document is for. When we make the whole change. And what that's gonna do is bring the field house and the fields and the fees and the application process all into this new document. This is not for anything short-term, this is for when we figure it out, for when.
Because right now, I'm looking on the website, our page,
Does that make sense?
we have playing field and facility permit policy, then we have playing field permit application.
Yes.
and I
So-
did not come up with an application, but I know that that's something that we talked about
Yeah,
last time about
that's
revising.
done, that's gonna be, the big thing we're
But
trying
I
to figure
did
out
not
now
touch
is what
that.
we can put together regarding to the fees,
Yes,
Okay,
which then would be Roman 2,
yep.
letter A, which is reservation application process.
Do you want me to run through it first and then we
I
can go
think
back and
the-
talk about it?
Just looking at it real quick,
Yeah,
letter A, regular use of playing fields 1 to 5A, 5B by groups will require a permit, yes. And a lot of this has been pulled from what we discussed last week.
Yes.
So preference for fields, we talked, that's pulled from last week.
yep, pulled from last
In
week.
addition to the tier for which permit holder belongs, consideration will be given to organizations that has a permit holder in the past, or, I missed a page? Look at 2, did you end it?
Oh, because it's either going to be 2 or 3. So in
Okay.
addition to the tier to which a permit holder belongs, consideration will be given to an organization that has been a permit holder in the past. Or you could write it as current annual recurring tenants, TYSA, TYL, GPS will have first
That's just a
opportunity to
question.
renew previous year's schedule. So that's, I didn't know how you would want to word it.
I just wanna make sure I didn't miss something in there,
Nope,
that's all.
so I put them both in there.
So it's either gonna be bullet 2 or little letter 2 is gonna be either 2 or 3, depending which way we go with it. Is that, am I reading that right? we just decide which one we like better? Or are you trying to combine it?
Which one you like better, which wording, and I didn't know if anyone had.
And for our audience, we have representatives from the Triton Youth Soccer, Triton Youth Lacrosse, and from Global GPS. Global Performance Soccer?
Yeah.
Premier, I apologize. Thank you. And Global Premier Soccer.
And then what's in red was just something to keep in mind as we go forward. I wasn't sure for
Oh,
lacrosse.
mine didn't print out that way.
Yeah, I
I
know
have-
that.
Yeah.
I got mine if you need it, want to look at it?
No,
Or
I
is
didn't,
that-
It's
yeah.
just, it's copies.
Yeah, my 2 and 3 are missing.
Okay.
I grabbed the last version, which I was fortunate. That's when I realized the Google Docs was working for me at least.
We have fall down there for the times, whereas for lacrosse,
Right,
you know, when we.
The time piece
Right,
isn't finalized yet, because
Right.
we're putting those on more placeholders, because we still need to work with you guys on your schedules and all the pieces, and try to agree on a date that kind of works. As
yeah,
opposed
so
to-
I
I
just,
guarantee you,
I don't
none of
think-
you three,
I
if
think
all
we
three of
should
you have the
just-
same date, I'll be going down to play the lottery right now, because I'm expecting all three of you to
Current
have
annual
different dates.
recurring
Right, it's
tenants
gonna
will
work.
I thought
have
so
first
too.
opportunity.
Jason?
So if the question on the table is the difference between 2 and 3?
yes.
Yeah.
The way I see 2 is an organization that has been a permit holder in the past,
Yeah,
where number 3 might be more of a
I know you're talking
provide
about,
more credence because they're current renewing holders, and I'm
Okay.
calling Triton Youth Lacrosse recurring holder
Yeah.
because that every spring. Where if a permit holder was there 2 years ago,
and isn't, so you're not looking historical, say if someone's 5 years ago, wanna come back, would have the same opportunity that you guys would.
correct.
Okay.
It's just the renewing of a current permit holder.
I like the idea of adding the current, I think that makes it easier, so I think 3 probably would
But I
work
think
better.
you
Okay.
can erase what's in the parentheses, just leave it, current annual recurring tenants.
Yeah,
Right,
because we
that
don't
was
wanna-
for
we
us,
can't-
for
We're not taking away,
discussion.
what happens if we have this in the document, and let's say, I hope it never happens, GPS decides to leave, then we've got them in there listed as a document there, so if we just use recurring and current,
Yep.
it's whoever is the current ones we can use, and it's a basic term that we're going.
Current being defined as that season or over the year?
Within the last year.
annuals.
Okay, so-
Year.
So
It says
can
current
lacrosse
And,
annual.
come-
like we just said, your situation, you're annually here in the spring, they're here annually both seasons.
So does Triton Youth Lacrosse get opportunities in the fall? Because they're a current holder.
We,
In
lacrosse,
theory,
well,
Well, it's first opportunity to renew previous year's schedule.
Yep, there you go.
Okay, so they,
Yeah, which kind of gets us, so if they're going, their previous schedule did not have fall, they wouldn't have rights to that because they're the ones that had it first,
right,
or whoever
Do we
they want to earn.
do we have in the document the? I don't know, be careful I do this. Because I'm not saying Triton Youth Lacrosse, but I'm gonna use lacrosse as an example, are moving to a fall ball. Would they have rights to use it in the fall, because they are, I'm looking at the language so that we are clear that they don't have a priority over another,
And
sport.
like soccer. So I'm not kicking soccer off anybody.
Well, soccer's now year round.
Right.
Well, the way that it's written, so the current annual recurring tenant will have first opportunity to renew previous year's schedule. And then,
Instead of, I'm looking at the previous years, and I think I kind of know where
Okay.
Mark's going, because we gotta make sure, and we also have to make sure regarding to what Chairman Walker had mentioned about the thing, and we have field space available, so we gotta kind of build in a piece here that, and it's not to take away from soccer, lacrosse, or whoever else that's at that time frame, but we gotta make sure, so it's renew previous year's schedule. I'm just trying to think of,
What if the, for example, the Pentucket lacrosse tournament decides to come back?
Well, they're not
Would
current.
that be what you're thinking?
they wouldn't be current, but no, I'm trying to think of,
Right.
certainly, because personally, you guys all have your own opinions on this, I said, I wanna keep our current tenants. We've got a good relationship, I wanna continue that. I'm just trying to find a way to do it so we're not, if lacrosse decided to have something,
Bless you. Bless you.
Well, I mean,
excuse me.
when you go back, if they wanna make fall ball, then you go back to the tier structure and they're,
But we have to make sure of the space, because currently, right now, the soccer programs both have all the hours booked, so we're gonna have to make sure, if lacrosse decided they wanted something to start in the fall, we'd have to take hours away from soccer to make sure lacrosse had time to
Yeah,
work.
we got
Or
fields.
Or another organization.
We got fields.
Yep, but if right now, we're not quite in the fall spring season, because they take it all up.
So why don't we keep going and come back to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's,
I mean, yeah, and it
let's
just,
highlight it
yeah,
and so that we know to come back.
it's just the picky part of it, just trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to word that last piece.
Okay, so
Copies
highlight
of
it.
required insurance binder and nonprofit, if you have to leave, I do understand.
It's okay.
I have a hard stop at 8, I don't have a choice. I mean, you guys can continue, I just.
Yeah, I
someone
have
can
to
take
go
over.
too.
Copies of required insurance binder and nonprofit applicable must be included with the application, no problems there. No permit will be considered unless the following conditions are met at the time of the application, roster certificate. The roster thing, I'm a little bit worried about. One, if we go to the fee structure that we're proposing, that we've already agreed upon or voted on, the roster's not gonna be the biggest deal.
I think that from what we've researched in other towns, even the ones that do per hour, they still require the roster.
I'm not saying we don't require it, but I'm just saying, Jason's mentioning, he goes, sometimes you may not get stuff until a period of time, so we don't know, unless we pin that date down and say,
Oh, you mean-
again, I'm just throwing a date, so please don't take it. If we said Trenton Youth Soccer had to have their dates by the 14th, that's when we'd have to have the rosters by, so,
Well,
Well,
and that's the only thing I'm trying to, again,
it's
just,
also more for up above if, number one, Newbury residents for nonprofit use. So something like that. So if a Newbury resident was coming in and they wanted to use it, we were talking about yoga, that proof of residency. So it's more than just teams, but it would also be for residents
Yeah.
using it for nonprofit as well.
Jason,
Sure.
Jim, sorry. I was looking at you and I saw your hand.
Where you have these schedules,
I have an asterisk next to it because I know that that's going to be a topic of, wait a minute, how are we going to work that out?
right, cause I have to put this in
That we going to?
January.
Yes,
And I'm not gonna get my league schedule till the last week of March.
right.
Best.
And that's why up here, it has the asterisk next to, because I knew what soccer's for, because this would be, this realistically for next fall, is what we were saying.
Well, we're not gonna worry about
At
dates
some
and
point
stuff.
down the road.
Right.
The question I think on the table is, some of these things can't be provided when we initiate the application process. 'Cause
Yeah,
we need to reserve the field before we get all this other stuff in, because as we have found out, people assume they have the field, so we wanna make sure they initiate it.
yep,
Some of these things come in, and then we need to be vigilant and do our job and check with downstairs to make sure everything's in place in a timely fashion, so that we're not making phone calls for a certificate of insurance that comes directly from the insurance company, a week before they open. So we should be putting our users in a bind.
Yeah.
So so
These-
some of this is,
Yeah.
these will be due by a certain time, and we will be needing to do our job to remind you this hasn't been received. Does that make sense?
Right, the league schedules though, I mean, even soccer, that comes out the week.
right.
We're
Yeah.
lucky if the day before the season starts, we know where we're playing the next day.
Yeah.
It comes down.
But you need to know you have fields available,
Right.
so you can, or when it's blacked out, so. The theory is, they put in an application very early, so we know that we can reserve these spots. They then create their teams, and they have finalized all these papers, they give it to us hypothetically by the middle of March with, particularly insurance that they'll need, the quarries. The other things are by the week starts, something of that nature, so that the critical things, certificate of insurance and quarries, we have in our possession. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there's certain things that we're gonna have to have, so we can confirm the legitimacy of the program. but there are some that are still,
Not possible, that far in advance.
Yeah.
Which is.
so I mean, I was focused on the roster, but the league schedule something more, so.
Yeah.
Basically, we consider the application, but no permit will be issued unless those things are done. We consider the application when it comes in,
Yeah.
and we reserve the times.
Yeah,
Provisionally, we would have
But
it,
then
yes.
the permit is not issued, so there's a
Still have it.
difference between considered and issued. Does that make sense?
would that work with you guys in regards to, because you're, right now, our current,
So
Yeah.
first, we consider the permit when it comes in, we
Yep.
reserve the space.
so if we use an
Then
example,
before they can actually get their permit,
they
they
need to
have to,
provide these last
and
pieces.
then use the field, they have to provide the rest of the stuff, which they provide anyway.
Are we okay with that being done where Jim was just saying it could be, well, league schedule piece could be last minute?
That's the dance, that's the thing that both us and the users are gonna have to figure out when going per hour. It's not, there's gonna have to be an estimate or, like, I get the game schedule thing, I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah.
But practices, you roughly know, how many practices a week you have, and you can ask your coaches, when do you think you want. I can't tell you how many times I drive by the fields that I know that they're reserved and they're empty, empty,
Yeah.
empty.
Empty.
And that's the thing that we're trying not to figure out 100%, but, that's the,
When
and
you-
I
when-
think
when-
it's mostly practice time, it's not even game time that,
Yeah.
it's practice time.
And again, we didn't do our job to require them telling us. Somebody in the audience had a question for you.
Yeah, cheers.
Two things.
Yep, go back up.
If you could go back up to the priority rankings.
Yep.
Right there. Newbury residents for nonprofit use.
Does that mean policy procedure?
I have,
If it's a, over 40 league, and the captain's a Newbury resident applying for the permit, are they now above any of the seasonal
They have
permit
to
holders?
have all Newbury residents on
Well,
the team.
again, we need to clarify some of that. I would see them as
They
being.
found turf anyway, so they're not doing that.
Well, no,
we
but
gotta
it's
plan
setting
for this.
precedent
I would
for
look
future.
at it as an other, but we need to clarify that because if they're in a league, and my definition would be if you have a schedule, that you're part of a larger organization, that you have regular scheduled games, it's different than, and again, thank you, Jason, for questioning some of this because we see it one way and then a new eye say, what about this scenario? The idea behind that was we had a woman who wanted to use it for a soccer tournament because her husband retired from Triton. That kind of use, as opposed to a league, because then everybody would have their parent from Newbury apply.
No, it'd be one of those situations where if it was a league, meaning that if Triton or Newbury had a soccer league that was all Newbury residents playing against all Newbury's residents.
Can we put in just a disclaimer at the discretion of the recreation committee?
There is something
Nice.
originally on there, but I guess we have to,
I'm trying to look at the
Because
policy
I just
now.
don't see that happening. I don't see there
Well,
being that much of a draw to have.
The over 40 league that applied last year or the year before, the whole point that was mentioned is they're Newbury residents applying to use the field, even though the rest of the team might not have been Newbury residents.
Yeah, but
Okay, so
I think they had to be Newbury residents on the team.
what Jason's saying, yeah, there had to be one. And
No, I'm saying they have to be all the players.
But that doesn't come
And
up.
that's the same situation with Triton Youth Sports Triton Youth Sports basically in general. They have to have Newbury residents on the team, correct?
Triton Youth Sports, yes, they need to have some Newbury residents on it, doesn't have to be 100%. We don't use any percentages.
Yeah, there should be,
Because Triton encompasses Raleigh and Salisbury also.
Yeah. But what we were saying before was, that going through this whole thing, was that as a town, Salisbury has their own fields, Raleigh have their own fields that are paid for by their own towns, and we have our field, which is paid by our town, so that's sort of,
Yeah, and the trouble
And
is.
that is like baseball. each town has their own baseball team, so
It's-
that's why no town charges.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's unfair because lacrosse soccer can't be on their own
Right.
within each town.
We don't have enough people in
Yeah.
Newbury to field the team, let alone a whole league. So,
Then, just food for thought, the yellow highlight,
Yeah,
the current annual, recurring tenants listed above, renew previous. You can always say, and past tenants in order of when they last, were permit holders. So you'll have a decline to say, if the individual or the organization was a permit holder a year and a half ago, they'll take more priority over one that might have been 2 years ago. And then
But I-
if nobody was a permit holder,
no,
I think we as a committee can do that under our discretion, right? To say, I mean, reasonably say here, oh, well, they were here a year ago, we'd
Yeah.
like to have them back.
Yep.
Can I just, real quick,
yes.
right now, our priority status of various field uses, that's not even written correctly. Residents of Newbury, the Recreation Committee or Town Department. 2 is the Newbury Byfield and Triton Youth Sports Leagues. 3 is the Triton Regional School.
So I took this from the policy that we submitted last time.
Okay.
Last week,
Mhm.
what we did.
So I'm just, so,
This is the one that we did last week, and I
okay,
just,
so we're gonna
Byfield.
change it then.
I kept it the same.
No, but we're changing it from what we
From
had
here.
last week. Okay, yeah, all right, that just, I was just double checking. So
Okay.
if seasonal, do you have seasonal, is number 2 on there? You do,
Yes.
okay. Seasonal permit, so.
And we can almost take out 4. Someplace in there, or going back to what we had, at one point it was the recreation committee and other towns, boards, committees.
Did you already submit the other one to the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Yep.
So you would have to go back and change that one as well, yes?
We can revise that one
Okay.
statement, but the idea is, so again, so we can reserve our blackouts, or like the ultimate disc, we'd be hosting that so that we get a priority, and we'd work with the soccer groups and lacrosse and say, can you do a late game on this Saturday?
could you just kind of expand on them when you get a chance? What that is, I heard you were talking about reserving a couple hours on 3 consecutive weekends.
That was the.
Yeah,
you're talking-
the idea is to take one field depending on who's playing where. If it's on a Saturday, it might be 1 or 2 after your practices, or work with you on, work with you and say, we need field 1 for 3 weeks, from 10 to 2. And so you get to use it before or after.
And what was that for?
Whatever, in this particular case, it'd be for ultimate disc.
Oh,
But the idea is, if we are trying to develop programming, that we should have priority, but working with the programs, it wouldn't be like on a Sunday for field 1 and 2, unless we said, working with you, saying, in the beginning of the week, can you alternate and just have the girls, and we use the boys' field on a particular Sunday.
That goes in with the league and scheduling with all the other teams.
Trust me, I
Yeah.
been to those meetings, so I understand how it works, and it's about everybody working it out.
Right.
do you wanna keep going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got 10 minutes.
Okay. So this is where we left off. Renter must not publicize, and I think I took a lot of this from the old document. And then bathroom facilities, I know that was something that we had discussed, and I
You know,
don't,
I didn't get to look at this, the written cannot publicize events, it's kind of, is that just for the events?
So like their schedule, they can't do it until they get written approval by
But see that, see.
You can't really do that
You can't really do
because,
that.
They wanna know,
well, because they wanna advertise people to join their leagues,
they have time.
Okay,
so they need, so I
I mean, but
mean, it's
they-
okay for
the
Triton
thing about it is they
soccer
can't
to
do
say we're
anything until
having
they
a
have a permit.
registration.
So you guys can tell them your leagues are going from A to B these dates.
Mhm.
But until you actually get a permit, you're the ones gonna have to, for some reason, if you don't get it, turn all the stuff in, you don't get a permit, you don't have access to the
think
field.
we
So
need
as
to
long
go
as you do your permit,
Back up
you
to,
can tell them the dates you all
D.
want, that you have scheduled,
D.
that will get you submitted for.
and what I was saying between the permit application
Okay.
versus permit,
Let's try it again.
what was I saying before?
Permit being considered,
Yes.
So, if next year.
There's a permit approval,
Came in front of us.
permit will be issued with all that stuff,
okay,
but the permit application will be accepted.
okay.
I can't remember, we have to rewind the video so I can remember what I said.
There's a difference between the application being submitted provisionally or accepted for consideration, is the word you used, to the approval time.
Advantage of knocking off dates before. This was getting small. Yeah.
Even C is not really practical
No, I wanna
because
make sure that-
the insurance binder never comes with the application, right?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
The
need to.
insurance I have to put in with the application.
Do you put it in always with the, because sometimes
Yes.
it doesn't come at the same time.
I know I have to put it in before it gets approved,
Yeah,
so.
Before it gets approved, but not before you submit your first
Right,
application, right?
I would say, if you saw that, Mariah, I was like,
The only thing we get
application
at the
approval will be
beginning is the
approved.
first page.
Application will be,
the application, also payment, that's not.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I was getting to that, but I wasn't gonna get to that point, because that was the easy part.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, like, you have to check in before they approve it, so.
Small thing.
okay, so,
We need to add a letter.
C and
Five.
D need to be kind of put, there needs to be
I wouldn't
a
say.
different C.
a different C.
C's kind of taken up in the certificate of our insurance, am I correct?
Okay, so where do you,
C, just say, applications
so
will
before,
be considered upon submission.
Completed applications.
No, because it's not complete until everything is included,
Permits will not be
issued,
Okay, that's it.
issued
until,
until,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's right here, permits.
until everything that's in D.
Until,
I've been satisfied.
above requirements.
I've been satisfied. Or completed.
Or fulfilled.
Ooh, good word.
Well, we should clean that up. We should put it in the right order, but we don't have to do that right now.
Okay, and then this, so the copy of insurance, that would go down, right below here.
Do we
So
get to-
all of D would go underneath,
As the new city.
Okay, so this will come down here,
yes.
okay,
Well, you already have certificate of insurance.
So you can either take the certificate of insurance
Okay.
line out, or you
Gotcha.
can keep 5, which way we wanna have it.
what about nonprofit documents?
I take the first part of 5 out, just take that section, and then, so the insurance, because insurance is under 2.
Yep,
That pulls there.
got
The
it,
one thing we have to, and Jim just said it, we still, our payment hasn't been listed.
yep.
Doesn't say what it is, it's just saying it's gotta be included. That's the whole
Okay.
section, not the payments.
That's,
all
no,
the-
that's part of, that's, you had 5,
Okay,
6,
oh, you want another one,
Yeah, so we've gotta add them in the payment.
you're pushy. Payment, okay, payment.
Yep.
That covers it, Okay, I think it comes up
So-
below, but we'll get.
I think we need, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
go
Nope.
back.
Yeah, go ahead.
So-
I see what she's heading, I just wanna make sure.
Before C.
Okay. Before
Going up.
C, okay.
So, no permit, no, I'm sorry, at C. No permit will be considered unless the following at the time, so that's not really true.
Yeah,
Okay,
Applications for permits will be considered upon submission, is that right?
okay.
Yeah. And Jason, your question?
And then D goes next, and then 1 through 6 goes after D.
I see, talking, so that's a period right there, and then you're creating a D.
Okay, then I'm creating a D, okay. So this one comes
Yep.
back up.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay,
And then instead of above requirements, until the following requirements.
okay.
All right, Jason, got a question?
Potential slight change to D. Temporary permits may be issued. However, upon the discretion of the Newbury Rec Committee, but may be revoked if the requirements below are not fulfilled timely. Because if you look at the yellow above.
Again,
Yeah.
the dates haven't been finalized, but I know what you're going.
No, but I'm just saying, TYSA, let's say we practice on April 14th.
Yeah.
Our schedule's not finalized or released until the 27th. Based upon your criteria down below, we cannot get a permit until pretty much the week leading up to our first game.
Because of the week's schedule?
It's out of our control. So if you go through and say, temporary permits may be issued upon the discretion of the rec committee. So if the league schedule's the only thing that's holding it up and it's out of our control, you could give a temporary permit for us to use the fields, and you have the right to revoke it,
If it's not.
Do we need the league schedule?
I don't think we need
I
it.
don't think we need the league schedule, they just need to figure out what fields they wanna rent, for
Yeah,
what
that's-
hours.
that's
That doesn't matter, if they wanna rent the field, if Stefano wanted to reserve the field to do practice all the time when I have a game, and he's willing to pay for it, that's his prerogative.
Yeah, we don't.
So I don't think we need league schedules,
We don't need
well,
schedule.
that'll eliminate some of your problems, right? Alright,
Yeah, but how do we control like the Saturdays where we only rent the fields for the hours that we have games? Because that's the whole reason of what you guys are trying to avoid, renting fields that don't get used.
do you guys care about the schedules in this?
What?
I'm asking you.
I don't know that we're gonna be able to.
You're investing as much as we are, so
Yeah.
I value your opinion.
So this practice schedule is one,
Yeah,
which we can get in, that's during the week, Monday through Friday,
Right,
let's
yeah.
say. Then Saturday and Sunday is game days for most of our leagues. So that's the league schedule.
if we said practice schedules, or we said,
We don't need
Well-
any schedule.
What about a different thing? We have, one of the things that lacrosse wants to do is have the flexibility where the schedules get bounced around, they change practices for whatever reason. We have, Tuesday, Thursday practices, 4:30 to 6. But,
I think I get where you guys are going, because you don't know your schedules are yet, so
right,
why am I gonna grab hours when I don't know if I need those hours on that day? So if I know my schedule is, I'm making dates up, September 21st, and I don't have another one on that Saturday, but I don't have a game on that Sunday, why am I gonna reserve that day? Because I'm not gonna have players, I'm not gonna practice, why am I reserving? But the following week, I may need Saturday and Sunday, so instead of asking for every Sunday, you're only gonna ask for the ones you actually
So I
have games
think
on.
That's coming
Am
up at the end.
I kinda getting this? Stefano's on his head a little bit, but I don't know, I just wanna make sure I'm clear.
Well, you basically are saying that our game schedule is inconsistent, and I agree with you, that's what I'm saying.
Well, it's not actually inconsistent, it's just you don't know what it is,
That's
because
all right, yeah.
they may say,
Yes.
you may have home games on every Sunday, except for these two.
Yeah.
Why would you reserve those two if you don't need to use them? Because you're traveling away in all games? You wanna make sure you're maximizing, you're only using the time you need it.
says all you're paying for, which is what we're trying to do. Cause then we take that time and then give it out to someone else if someone wants to use it. Does that make sense, everybody?
It makes sense. I don't wanna rehash, but I will. Again, that's why the old method, that's what they had, and we didn't do our job by asking them to give us the times we weren't there. So we're coming back to that same
Yeah,
dance.
and I'm just saying, based on this, you have league schedule, that's one of the requirements.
Yeah,
So we can't get a permit to use the field until the league
Check it out.
schedule is issued.
So you're just saying the temporary permits may be issued or revoked at any time based on
We took
practice?
it out, we don't need their league
But,
schedules.
alright,
We don't. They do. They can't give us their final
We can't
allotment
reserve
of time
time without the league
requested
schedule.
because they don't know what that is.
what
That's the
if,
reason why they need it.
what if we give,
Hmm?
what if we have two different things? We've got for our flexibility, we have the hours that we'd like for the week.
Yeah.
And then we have our anticipated schedule for the week, which obviously there's some change, but if you have someone who needs a field on Tuesday afternoon, you can see we don't have anything directly scheduled at that time, but we've reserved the time, you might call us and work something out to use that
But you'd be
time.
charged for that ahead of time, that's the thing. So I'm thinking,
If we
Is
go
there a way
down
to work around
through quickly.
I don't, I'm
Mariah has,
If we go down through quickly, because I know you have to go, and my kids are home at 8, so I have to get going too. Just very quickly, there's a piece about bathrooms, applications, who they're addressed to, submitting an application, personal injury, schedules, and maybe we can revisit this next time we meet.
Yeah.
Because I did include, how can we account for practices needing to end due to darkness? Is it appropriate to assume practices will push back from 5:45 to 5, something like that, mid-fall season? Requirements, what the renter assumes responsibility for, including field lining, it's not included, responsibility of the permit holder, goal nets are property of TYSA. TYSA can relocate, remove nets as needed. Public safety, liability, cleanliness, taking trash with you when you leave, damages, whatnot. Payment, if required, must be received prior to acceptance of the consent form. Use of grounds is prohibited until full payment has been received. Only payment by check is accepted. No future payments will be issued to a group or organization until all outstanding fees are paid. And then I had asked the question, would it be appropriate to say full payment would be received at least 10 days prior to event or start of practice season? Would this help solve TYSA,
No, they've already said that.
yes,
It's not gonna
scheduling?
work. You guys already said, you don't get your schedules, you don't know your final game schedule just before the season starts.
Okay, and that's why I had 10 days.
I think the one thing you guys are so used to doing, and I apologize, my back is bothering me from standing, so I'm not trying to,
can I make a suggestion? Can we give,
Yeah, but you guys are so used to
Users a
saying,
copy.
here's my weekly schedule for the week.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to look at a full calendar for that season and start marking up days, and that's how we're gonna have to look at it, I think, to avoid you guys being charged unnecessarily for days because you have games. Does that make sense? Instead of just saying, I want Sunday to Monday, one of these times, these fields and stuff, you might now come down and say, okay, for this week, you want that in September, then the same for the next week, and going through and doing that way. I don't know if that's gonna kill us or not, but
that, again, that's sort of the whole problem we had, the concerns we had with the old model of, if they were to tell us 24 hours in advance, it wouldn't give us time to use it. Be that as it may, does people feel comfortable having the 3 representatives here have a copy of this document for them to review instead of seeing it for the first time and trying to add their input to making this a better document?
I don't have a problem with it, because I think, we're gonna make the final decision and go through it, so if you guys, our next meeting is gonna be scheduled for 11/5, which is Monday the 5th, from 6 to 7:30, which is the same time we're in now. Hopefully we'll get close to the end at 7:30. Bring comments you have, and we'll go with it there, but, we're making progress, guys, and this is a whole new thing for all of us, so, thank you all for your input and your help in this. Mariah, thank you for everything you've been doing on the floor with this.
Would it be okay to share this
not a
document?
working, no, share not a working document.
Okay. Because you can make it so that it's not you can't edit it.
They
Whatever
can
you
just
want.
make their own
Well,
comments. print it off, make your copies, and
It's-
bring the edits, or
Right.
questions.
Would I be able to bring this before our board of directors and have them?
Yeah,
review
that's what
also?
we're,
Yeah, it's-
that's where we don't wanna,
So you don't want me to show, you just want me to look at it?
I'm trying to figure out the most effective way for people to provide input as opposed to just sitting down real quick.
We all got a Word document, we can just put our comments next to it. So we're not changing the document, we're just saying, okay, to this point, maybe.
Thoughts, comments? Anyway,
I don't want anybody to have any ability to edit the document, and it's nothing personal against any group, but this is our responsibility, and we're the ones that have to do it, so if they edit something that we've already gone through, then we'd have to go back and waste time going through the whole document all over again.
So this right here is a Google Docs.
Yes.
Yeah, you could just save it as a PDF and send it.
I think one of the concerns I have in one part of my brain is I don't want this going out to the general public and everybody in the world gets to see it.
And they're all gonna say, we're doing this and that, and I go,
You
it's
got-
not done, it's still a working document, we're trying to figure out.
It's, you three have been here regularly and we value your input and the ideas, having you three look at it. So I don't know how to do it without preventing it from being, going out, being totally exposed.
I'm not a voting member of the lacrosse board.
Couldn't it,
I am the liaison,
Yeah.
you know, so I attend these meetings, so, you know, I can go look at it, but unless I bring it to the board and say, here's what they're talking about, here's what you need to be aware of.
But the clear understanding that anything that we're doing, one, this is not a completed document. Two, it's still going back. Three, all we're looking for is questions or comments they may have, and it's not like they're gonna be accepted, because we have to look at the greater good of the department. I have to consider GPS, I have to consider Triton Soccer, and I have to consider you, as well as anybody else that comes on. So we have to look at all these pieces, so. Most groups that I've belonged to, I'm sorry, I was sharing this spot with someone, my focus is on me only. I'm not worrying about that, well, we have that responsibility, so as long as everybody's clear about that.
So I
Yeah.
could bring it to
Yeah.
my board of directors and say,
can anybody make it here earlier on the 5th?
I don't know.
Or stay late tonight and read through it?
I cannot.
Now, I'm not
Oh,
asking,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
asking the people in the audience to, can
One
you,
one possibility is, I think if you go into format, under the print format, you can make it so it says draft across it.
That's not,
that's not the issue.
That's
The
not the
issue
point.
is, all of a sudden, a copy, I feel like I'm at the Senate and we have a reporter. Everybody goes in and reads the one copy and that's it. The idea is, I don't want this to be traveling to people in Newburyport or whatever, and all of a sudden we're getting all kinds of feedback at this juncture. I mean, I'm willing to hear feedback at another time, but not in this embryonic stage.
So why don't we just,
hold off on sharing it.
we're gonna hold it for the time being, so if you guys, I mean, you've seen what you've seen so far and have a basic understanding. If there's anything that comes up, we're gonna hit the first few things like we always do with the roll call and all that stuff, but this is the first thing on the list, because we've knocked up the other things. This will be the first thing we hit, and we're gonna finish going through it, so.
What time are we meeting on?
6 to 7:30 on the 5th.
That's
I've already locked it in on the calendar, so we
6 to
just.
7:30?
Yeah, but this is our 7:30. This is sort of like someone saying, let's take a 5-minute break, and keep our breaks to less than 15 minutes.
Do we have a proposal to end?
Motion to end the meeting at 8:09.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.